Jared, they are so sleek. Mikey and Jared, they're making beats.
Hello and welcome. This is week 7 of Slick Picks. We're talking about week 6 in the NFL. Last week is my first week without a loser. I went 2-0-1. I pushed on the Texans. That's why you got to put those picks in right away when you listen to the pod, because by Friday, by Saturday, by Sunday, it was 1.5. But when I gave it out, it was at 2. That was a push. That's a big deal. My other 2 hit. I had, who the hell did I have last week? I'll figure that out. But Jared, how'd you do?
Come on. I did pretty well too. I went 2-0-1 as well. My first push of the year. Had the Jets hold down the Broncos for the 2-point. Chiefs handled the Vikings for my 1 point, and then Texans pushed 2-point loss against the Falcons. But we'll take that. We'll take that. I got to check in with our intern how I'm doing overall throughout the year, but I feel like I've had pretty good weeks. I might be pushing.
I mean, I was going to say, I think you might be as well. My other 2 picks were the Dolphins at minus 10.5. I think this final score was like 14 or something. That covered, as well as the Eagles minus 4.5 over the Rams. Yeah, so let's get into our picks for this week. We're doing something a little bit different this week. If you remember last year, we did a tier list for all the teams in the NFL. We did one around this time of the year, and then we do one around week 16, 17 towards the end of the regular season as we prepare for the playoffs. But of course, we're going to still give out our winners. So let's start with the underdog. Jared, I think you're going to like this one. It's Diggs over 89.5 receiving yards.
Automatic.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he's gone over 100 yards in 4 out of 5 games this year. Absolutely goofy. He hit 77 yards in that other game, so it wasn't like he disappeared on that game either. And the Giants have given up at least 90 yards to the wide receiver 1 on the other team in 3 of their 5 games so far. You know, those other 2 games, it was weird games where like Will Disley had like a shit ton of yards or something for Seattle, or it might have been Noah Fant. Don't stress this one. The Giants defense is a mess, and Josh Allen pretty good when he's blitzed. And I think the Giants will blitz because that's all Wink Martindale knows how to do. And Josh will just get that ball out to Diggs. So I think receptions over could be good on Diggs as well. But also you got Kincaid out, right? He's got the concussion protocol.
He's probably out. Dawson Knox also dinged up. You're going to see them hitting the boundaries a lot more. So that's a nice pick. I like that a lot.
Oh, and I just want to throw it out there. My prop for last week, I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, it was Sam Howell over 12.5. I think he had around 19 to end the game with.
You're undefeated.
I'm undefeated on the props,
man. That is
man.
crazy. That is actually very, very impressive. We should be pushing that more.
Yeah, I really think. So I'm trying to think. So if you did the free bet that Underdog gives you each week, plus my prop, you would have made $30 times 5 now. So that's what, $150? You'd be up $150 on just my picks alone for the Underdog props. So sign up under promo code Slick.
Free money on this show. Constant. I love it. That's why we do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm feeling good about it. So do you want to give me your, so we're going to do our plays quicker than usual here, our actual bets. So Jerry, why don't you just do 1, 2, 3 for me and I'll follow up with mine.
Oh crap. Okay.
Or do you want me to go first? Want me to go
let
first?
Me see. Well, no, I have one. You go first. All
right. So I have my 3 plays here, and it's just about how I'm gonna send them out. Let's start with Lions -3 versus Tampa Bay. Feels like a little bit of a trap game. Plus, Lions are hurt, but -3 for this Lions team that people are starting to say is like the 5th best team now in the NFL. I think it's maybe a little crazy, but like, I don't know. I'm just maybe trying to stop myself from getting hurt here. But I mean, Tampa's good. Tampa's not bad, but like -3 is such a small number that it's very enticing for me. My fear is that the wide receivers pop off for Tampa Bay, and we have our secondaries pretty banged up. So that's my 1-point play. My 2-point play, another line that I just don't quite understand. It's San Fran -5.5 versus Cleveland. Yeah. Cleveland's played some really good games this year, but whatever. This is the cheese game. This is the trap game.
Yeah.
I'm eating up the cheese. Yum, 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 yum.
I wanted to talk about this one.
It makes no sense, right?
Because I wrote that's why I was hesitant, because I'm trying to figure out where I want my picks. I'm trying to figure out if I want to use that -5.5 if it's a trap, because that makes zero sense that it's 5.5. Like, I don't know what we don't know. The Browns, I understand that they're frisky. I understand that they're like a good team, a potential playoff team. But the 49ers should roll just about everyone.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up because I'm pretty sure Watson, like they're already saying Watson won't be playing. So I'm trying to remember. It was announced today who I think their starter is gonna be. Let me just look it up because I can't remember all the time.
The backup is in.
Yeah, backup is in for the Browns. Yeah, so it's not even Dorian Thompson Robinson. It's another guy. Who is their third? Oh my God. Browns QBs. I'm just gonna type in Browns QB.
I'll just talk on it. That's my 3-point play. And that's fine. That's fine. I feel good about that. I don't really care who it is. I don't care if it's Watson. The fact that he's banged up so much, but they're talking about him not playing. I heard Dorian Thompson was.
PJ Walker. They're talking about PJ Walker playing.
Oh, that guy's never won a game in the NFL in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's easy.
Yep.
Can't.
And then my lock here really quickly is just the Cowboys. Good team, awful loss. I understand that there's starting to be some speculation if the Cowboys are good because people are looking at their wins and saying it's pretty fraudulent.
First two.
So I think the Cowboys, let's look at Cowboys are playing, drum roll. It's a bad team too. The Chargers, which you could argue, the Chargers are kind of good.
Bad team,
right? And it's like, but the Chargers are off a bye, Mikey. Aren't you worried about that? Why would I be worried about a bad coach with more time to drop worse play? You know what I'm saying?
He's thinking too much. He's playing chess with himself every night. I like it. Good picks. I feel like you are like a girl after the second date with the Lions, and the second date went really well. And
I'm like scared.
It's
so exciting
about it. Like he's so great. He's so tall, but I've been here before. I just don't want to get hurt.
I don't want to get hurt. It's gonna be terrible. I mean, week 2 we lost to Seattle, and I was on like genuine suicide watch.
Yeah, me this weekend against the Jags, I was embarrassing myself in front of my girlfriend with how angry.
And it's funny. It was like 11 a.m.
Yeah, so early, like so early. Yeah. I turned on the game. Matt Milano's out for the season, and so it's fun. Whatever.
Yep.
My plays. Bills -14 versus the Giants is my 1-point play. I think the Bills might sack the Giants 15 to 30 times. Despite DaQuan Jones being out, even if Gregory Rousseau doesn't play. If you can find a prop on Von Miller getting over sacks, I would take that. Evan Neal, maybe the worst starting guard in the NFL, which is baffling to me.
Not crazy to say. Not crazy.
But I think the Bills bounce back in a big way here against a atrocious team. And I mentioned my 3-point play was the 49ers versus the Browns. That's all I needed to hear from you. PJ Walker's name being in a sentence. And then my 2-point play, very slutty pick. Been down this road before. I'm taking the Bears again, man.
Oh, my God.
Bears 2.5 versus the Vikings. I can't get off Justin Fields. I can't. Every time I watch him play, I'm like, this guy's good. I just can't.
I just traded him in Dynasty. I finally got him off my fucking
What'd you get for him?
I got a future first. I had a couple things, like couple him with some other things. A couple 3rd-round picks. KJ Osborne, who's going to get a lot more touches because Jefferson's out. A bunch of like money. Like there's like money in our Dynasty league. So I sent the guy a bunch of money. Yeah, I got a first back in 2026.
You just missed a future Hall of Famer on your team, buddy.
Yeah, but I got Josh Allen on my team.
Oh, you're fine. Justin Fields is Josh Allen.
Okay.
Yeah, I just love Justin Fields, and also the Vikings. No Justin Jefferson for the foreseeable future. This team feels like they're gearing up to sell everything, and I think this Bears loss that they are going to suffer might just do it.
See, it's funny. The Vikings are my honorable mention. Doesn't it just make sense that the Vikings tear off like 6 wins right now? And they kill their potential to sell. They don't know what to do with Kirk. But then they also like miss the playoffs. Like they play themselves out of a good draft pick, but also miss the playoffs. Like that's what I'm feeling for I think the Vikings are going to finish the year with a better record than both the Packers and the Bears.
That would be some sort of hell to find themselves in at like 7 and 10.
Yeah.
No idea what to do with anything.
Yep.
Justin Jefferson doesn't want to play there.
Yep.
Yeah, that does make sense. But so does the Bears unlocking their team right now, and that's the wave I'll be riding. Justin
Fields
Jefferson
has looked really good the last 2 weeks.
8 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Yeah, it's hard to criticize that. So yeah, I mean, like we said, we're giving out our picks quick this week. We just kind of want to get them out there. You know, the normal deal. Just because we're giving out the picks quick doesn't mean that we don't love them. This is a quick fix for your life. You got money problems? Of course you do. Put a huge 6-leg parlay together and make some cash here. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to look at these 2 tier lists. So Jared sent me 2 different tiers lists that we could go with here. Do you want to go with this one with the Minnesota golfer?
Yeah.
You want to go with
Go
this
for
one?
football? Yeah.
All right. So would you mind really quickly, just for context sake here, Jared was the one that created these wonderful tiers for us. I'm going to try to find a way to full screen this.
Did you get rid of one of the
tiers? I might have, but I can add it. Let me go look really quick. So while I'm going to double check, would you mind just telling everyone from top to bottom what our tiers are, and what do these tiers mean to you? You know, like how would you describe them?
Okay. Yeah, you change. Wait. I was looking at my list, and then you changed the screen. Are we doing this list or the other one?
Fuck! I'm being an idiot.
I'm in shambles.
I know.
Give me the Gopher one.
I might have closed out on the Gopher one. All right, I'm gonna have to add it. Oh baby! All right, so this is Gopher football.
The tier. I'll read the tiers. Tiers. So top tier, Super Bowl champions. If the league ended today, that tier will hold the Super Bowl champion of the NFL. Second tier down is Beast Mode. Beast Mode. These are teams that should be finding their way deep into the playoffs, if not in the Super Bowl. Absolute wagons you don't want to find on your schedule. Third tier, playoff or bust. These are these, fringe to above fringe playoff teams that or teams that want to find their way into the playoffs, I should say. We have spicy meatball hog riders. These are just the day-to-day frisky football teams that we all love to watch. We all love to gamble on, and that hopefully win us a lot of money throughout the year. Next, we have bad football teams. Name speaks for itself, teams that are bad. Then we have Suicide Watch. This is different than bad football teams in a big way. It's different in that if you're in the Suicide Watch, your team was supposed to be good, and now they're not, and you are kind of lost in this world trying to find what to do with yourself, and maybe you should just kill yourself if you find yourself in that tier.
Makes sense.
Yep. And then we have Minnesota Gopher football. I was at the Minnesota Gopher football game against the Michigan Wolverines. I had a nice little parlay with the money line on them, had a little faith, and they lost 52-3. So they find themselves at the bottom of my tier. We can do that one first. Minnesota Gophers are there. They don't have a symbol on our
Okay,
screen.
so just imagine them right here, folks. We'll add it in on post-production. Wait, can I draw? I think I can draw. Annotate.
You can try.
Yeah, I can draw. Okay, what does a gopher look like?
Oh, brother, I don't know.
All right, we're gonna draw like a little body here, a couple legs.
It's really good. Looks like a spider.
Got like little ears.
Yeah, if I saw that thing, I'd kill it with a hammer.
All right. They're the Minnesota Gophers. So cool. There's Minnesota Gophers. So let's start with Arizona here. I guess we'll just go alphabetically here. Arizona, a weird team. Like, I don't know. I want to play some of Scrappy Hog Riders.
Yeah, that's where I have them. I put some teams down in here beforehand just since I made the list. They have been playing above their weight quite a bit. I like that you're searching here for.
Well, no, I want to show everyone their.
Well, no, but the little gopher is still there.
He's got to come with me. He doesn't have a choice. He's coming with me.
Yep. No, Cardinals been playing really well. Dobbs filling in for Murray in a big way. It feels like their coach has done a good job. Like, and that's where it's come from, because you see like this whole roster kind of elevate itself the past, 5 games.
Yep. No, I agree. If you look at all these games, they're fairly competitive. I mean, I mean, their worst game was their most recent one, but let's see them potentially bounce back in the division game. So I think Arizona deserves the Hog Rider title here. So next we have Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Atlanta's a weird one because I think they're so close to terrible football. And like, I think they're just like 1 or 2 bad weeks away from terrible football, in my opinion. But where do you have them?
I haven't scrappy Hog Riders, but I totally like if Desmond Ritter didn't throw for 300 yards and they didn't beat I believe Texans last week, then they would have been terrible football. But this is two of these first teams are two of the tougher teams to make something out of.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you want to put them lower, but they're winning football games, or they at least look competitive as hell in football games. Bijan Robinson's really good. We could put him scrappy Hog Rider just for that.
I think when we do this tier list again, my prediction is that Atlanta is in potentially even Gopher football territory. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. Next we have the Baltimore Ravens. So now we're starting to get to a team that's at least a good team. I think this team has to be playoff or bust. I'm trying to think, what does their division look like? Like, they're winning their division, right?
I think they are. We have the Steelers 3-2, the Ravens 3-2, Browns 2-2, Bengals 2-3. So it's a dog race. But the Ravens have looked good. I think this is the same team it is every year, with Lamar Jackson hitting people in the hands and them not catching the ball, and then just hard-nosed football. So, and no running back. Who's the running back? Who's the starting running back on that roster?
You got Justice Hill. You got
Gus Edwards.
Gus Edwards is there, and then they have some other crazy ass name. I'm going to the Ravens depth chart here because you're gonna crack up at this last name. This is a guy who's getting touches too. God, I love that the Gopher is with me this whole time.
He's just watching ball. IR. Tough.
God, I could have swore there was one more name in here, but either way, Keaton Mitchell, he was a rookie who's apparently really fast. He already hit the IR, shocking. Dobbins IR, shocking. So yeah, I think playoff or bust for this team. Like you said, they're going to be well coached. You know, the defense will be good. You know, the special teams will be good, and their offense is going to be weird. But we're supposed to believe that Lamar Jackson's really good, right?
Yeah, What's your take on Lamar? Do you think he's good or bad? I think he's
fine.
Yeah. Top 12, top 8.
I think he's 12 to 16, in my opinion.
We got a full list here one of these days.
Just QB list, just
rip them out. Yeah. I think he's like 10, top 10.
Maybe we could just do like top 15 or something right after this or something. Just rip through those. But all right, next we have the Buffalo Bills.
Yes, sir. They are a tier above the Ravens. Absolutely. Teams that need to be thinking of Super Bowl. That's just what they are, and that's what they've been the past 3 years. Course hasn't changed. They've lost to the Jets and the Jags. They can't handle teams with Jays. That's fine. Play through that. I don't think any teams with Jays are in the NFC. So as long as they get to the Super Bowl, they should be able to handle business.
Yeah, it's just the one thing that makes me a little worried about the Bills is that what the fuck happened in London with the injuries?
It was the worst game of my life. The absolute worst game of my life. I turn on the game in bed. I haven't stood up. I've taken 0 steps during the day, and Matt Milano's leg is gone. Quan Jones, maybe the best run stopping D tackle in the NFL right now. Tore his pec. He's done. Then Deion Dawkins went down for a stint. Taron Johnson went down for a stint. These are all like very, very, very valuable players.
Yeah.
All 4 of those guys on the Bills. You know, the latter 2 came back during the game, but even outside of that game, they've had injuries stack up with cornerbacks. They just signed Josh Norman, which is disgusting.
Weird.
Yeah. The edge rushing position is starting to get a little banged up now too. So as long they cannot afford too many more injuries before it starts getting bad. But with Josh Allen, it's always going to be Super Bowl or bust.
I agree, and I think something that goes in your guys' favor is I don't think the AFC has ever been this weak. In my opinion, it's like bizarrely weak this year. So I think you guys are in at least a decent spot. No reason to fully panic yet. So next we have Carolina. I don't think you could give this team suicide watch because oddly, suicide watch feels worse than terrible football.
It is. It is.
But even
It
though it's
absolutely-
higher, this could be confusing for you. But you're gonna have to use your brain. I
you
think
can
they're
flip
terrible.
them if you want.
All right, I'm gonna put them in terrible football, and then I'm going to flip them.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
the expectation was not to go to the playoffs this year. So
Yep.
you can, if you're a Carolina Panther fan, you can eat your bad football. You can thank the Lord for football Sundays and just hope Bryce Young looks a little better than he has so far.
And I think he has looked moderately better week to week. Like I don't see like Josh Rosen out there. I just see a guy with very little talent around him doing his best, and he happens to be tiny, and it's hard to ignore.
Yeah, the tiny hurts. The tiny hurts here. It doesn't help that CJ Stroud has looked really good this year, and Anthony Richardson in his stints has looked really good also.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And because he's also like the first overall pick, so like everyone's like, oh, like, you know, did they fuck up? Like, should Carolina have taken Anthony Richardson or Stroud? So I think it just kind of makes it look worse. This team wasn't going to be good regardless of how good Bryce Young looked this year. So honestly, it could help them, you know, maybe hopefully get another tackle and maybe a good wide receiver in the second round, something like that. This team has got a long way to go. So next we have Chicago here. And if I think these last 2 weeks didn't happen, this team could have been in suicide watch. But these last 2 weeks were two of the best games that they've played in like a calendar year.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a little too biased here. My first gut reaction was suicide watch, but I think I'm going to put them down for now. Where do you see Chicago?
It's tough. This one is tough. I've been mulling it over between terrible football and suicide watch. And it's not relatively about like how well they played the last 2 weeks. It's, you know, putting myself in the shoes of a Bears fan.
Yeah.
Do I want to shoot myself in the head? And I think a lot of them would. I think they're like the Falcons. Like the Falcons are one bad game away from being terrible football.
Yep.
The Bears are one more bad game away from being suicide watch. Like,
but what I will say, and it seems like you're leaning to terrible football for now, right?
Yeah.
I think the one thing that you have to hang your hat on. Oh wait, did they trade away first round picks? No, they got first round picks, right? With the Carolina trade.
They right now have the first and second overall pick in the
You
NFL.
can't be that sad, right? If you're Chicago fans, and you cannot be on Zoo. Even if you're like, man, I love Justin Fields. It's a real bummer that he may or may not work out. Like, you can't be on full on suicide watch.
What you do right now as a Bears fan is you look up all the Marvin Harrison Jr. tape that you can, because that guy will more than likely be on your team.
Yep. God bless.
Awesome.
So yeah, terrible football. They're lucky that they did so well in the offseason with that one trade. So next we have the Bengals. Bengals are weird because I think every year since Burrow's been there, they've been one of these top 2 tiers. But with Burrow hurt and really only one good game so far this season against Arizona, it's kind of hard for me to just snap put them and absolutely should be thinking about Super Bowl. But will I feel silly about this later on this year?
I think, well, we're doing this for right now.
Right now.
So I think you are spot on. You can't be thinking about the Super Bowl when 2 of your 3 away games you've put up 0 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think if you're a Bengals fan right now, you're just trying to get to the playoffs. You're 2-3. You looked good last week. Give you some hope, but I mean, you're in a dog race or a rat. I don't know. You're. It's a close race in the.
It's a rat race and a bar fight in the
Yes.
AFC North.
Yes, and I don't know how it's going to shake out, but like, you want to see more from Joe Burrow than just 1 week of competent football because he's looked terrible all year until last week.
And don't get me wrong, I'd be scared shitless to play the Bengals in the playoffs.
If they get there, yeah.
If they get there. So, and I think that's where playoff or bust, you're right. That's where they belong. And honestly, I think there's a good chance that this next team that we're discussing, also an AFC North team, the Browns, are they also playoff or bust?
I would say so. I think the whole we just rename it the AFC North over there, right?
Yep.
Like they are fighting every single one of them. Browns, this was the year. Like this, if you're like think about the rebuilding of the Browns, this is the year where it's supposed to all come together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't make the playoffs, then you got to start looking at head coaches.
Yeah, wow.
Is Kevin Stefanski the head coach there still?
He is, and I was really high on him when he first got there. I don't know. Feels like some of the luster is sort of worn on as he's been there for what 3-4 years now, and kind of doesn't feel like this team is much of it. And he's an offensive guy, and it feels like their defense is what's keeping them competitive.
Yeah, I agree. And then Nick Chubb, but
yep,
where is he? You know,
in a hospital bed.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Yeah, I agree. I mean, at what point? I mean, if they don't make the playoffs this year and you have all that guaranteed money to fucking Watson, I mean, the roster is not going to get much better next year, if better at all, arguably. So I agree. Playoff or bust feels like a very appropriate spot for them. We got Dallas. I think this is a team that's narrative changed very drastically this last week. This went from in my opinion, a Super Bowl championship ready team. They could be spiraling. They're going to make the playoffs. I don't know what to do with this team, actually, because they're going to make the playoffs, right? They're probably going to be that wild card team. But like, if you're a wild card team, can you absolutely be thinking about the Super Bowl?
Maybe. I don't know. I think Cowboys fans are, or at least they were.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are interesting because I'm looking at their schedule. Their wins have been against the Giants, awful. Against the Jets, awful. And then the Patriots, awful. And they've lost to the Cardinals, who are scrappy, and the Cowboys, the 49ers, who are very, very good. So I think this week versus the Chargers is going to tell us a lot. But I think I personally put them in thinking of the Super Bowl. But, man, they could plummet fast if they don't do well.
I agree.
Just hasn't done anything impressive this year. Anything.
Yeah, I think when we do this tier list at some point, week 15, week 16, this team could very easily be in playoff or bust tier. So that'll be interesting to look at. But I think for now, you can't overreact to 1 week, and they were one of the best teams in the NFL. So they're there. Last year, we had a tier for this team that was just called Fuck You Broncos. We've arrived at Denver. I think they got to be suicide watch.
They are on suicide watch. What I think we maybe talked about this last week. Like, what team would you least want to like be taking ownership of right now? Is it the Broncos? Yeah, Broncos. Yeah. All those teams are going to find themselves like in suicide watch, and for me, it's probably the Broncos. The Russell Wilson contract is so bad. I've heard nothing but negative things coming out about Sean Payton and Russell Wilson's relationship. Yep. And also, again, I'm hearing the rumors that Russell Wilson's just a bad guy to hang out with, like just a terrible hang. So don't love that. I'm hearing fire sale from this team.
Yep.
I saw Patrick Surtain to the Lions today. That's a rumor that's picking up some steam. I don't know if you've had your ear to the ground. But...
I believe me, I have. I have to imagine they won't deal him, but I would be thrilled to have him. If I'm a competitive team right now, like if I'm especially like even Buffalo, because like you guys have had so many injuries, I gotta be looking at some of these players on the Broncos and see if they could just, even if it's just like depth pieces, like it might be worth poking around.
I agree.
Because here's the thing, like when I'm thinking of like some of the worst teams in the NFL, like even like Chicago and Carolina, like two arguably bad teams, like their future, there's hope for their future. I don't know the hope for the Broncos' future. I mean, even the Raiders like draft capital isn't fucked up right now. Like I don't think the Raiders are a very good team, but like their cap situation's at least like normal, their draft situation's at least normal. So Yeah, I mean Broncos, oof, man, they might be alone in suicide watch, but we'll see
Yeah,
as we move along here.
Last thing about him, the Russell Wilson contract, always so funny. If you don't remember, it was 5 years, $242 million. Average salary of $48 million a year. If they cut him this year, they take 42 million dead cap. If they cut him next year, it's 41 million dead cap. If they cut him in 2025, 2 years from now, still 40 million. They don't have an out until 2026, and then even then it's 31 million dead cap.
I think if you're the Broncos at this point, you got to just ride with Russell Wilson. But here's the thing. The worst part is they don't even have their draft picks. So it's not like, oh, we'll just ride with him and be bad. They don't even have their draft picks.
Everything went into this guy.
Oh no, Denver. Denver might not win a Super Bowl for like 15 years because of this trade.
Death sentence. Sentence.
All right. Next we got Detroit. And I think they are a tier above playoff or bust because we've already essentially won our division. If you look at our division's fucked already. Like we're definitely going to win it. But I definitely don't think we're in playoff championship ready team. I think we have to be teams that are absolutely thinking about the Super Bowl, though I don't want to get too excited because, again, I'm scared to get hurt. That second date was amazing. So how do you feel about that? Do you think that's the right place for Detroit?
Yeah, I think that's fine. But I did realize the tier you got rid of, which I have the Lions in.
Okay, so let me add that tier in right now. Where does that tier belong?
Right above the Minnesota Gophers. It was called Sucking Each Other's Dicks on the Podcast and Over Text.
Okay, let me add that bad boy in here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to delete the Gopher because the Gopher moved. You know what?
You can move them?
I can't. It doesn't
We
seem
can put
like
the Lions up there.
You know what? I'll move. I'll make this Gopher. I'll make this Gopher Minnesota Gophers. Give me a second here.
Okay.
Live production, folks. All right.
I just think it's really interesting that when, you're supposed to be my friend and my co-host, and then when certain people come onto the podcast, you think it's funny to take their side. And then when they text me mean things later on after the show, you think it's funny to take their side again and never back me up and like all their messages.
Yep.
Being mean to me.
Yep.
In a time of crisis and just not say anything to back me up. I want you to know that if an unnamed gentleman was coming at you, I would have your back, or I would have had your back. But now I don't know if I would.
But this is all hypothetical,
Some of it was on air, buddy.
I don't know, man. If I could just bottle up Miami Dill and just bring that with me day in and day out, and just in any moment when life's a little dull, just pop open a little bottle of Miami Dill, I think I would, because I love that energy that he brings not only to the pod, but just to life. And when he shit talks you, man, there's something about it that just cracks me up. Like it always makes me laugh. So
it makes you laugh because he sounds so stupid.
No, it's not because of that. I mean, some of it I don't think is always brilliant, but even the dumb shit's great. I don't know, man. I think we got to get him on like live television or something. I think we're holding him back.
I think he would get canceled really fast.
Yeah, I don't think he makes a single episode.
No.
So yeah, no.
Lions are good though.
Yeah,
Lions are good.
If you can't tell, Lions and Dolphins were sucking each other off. So we're gonna put those teams back where they belong, though.
Okay.
Lions absolutely thinking about the Super Bowl because realistically, okay, 49ers are better than the Lions. I think that's just
they're better than everyone. Yeah,
better than everyone. And I think the Eagles are definitely still better than the Lions, but I think that gap might be smaller than I thought it was initially. Like the Eagles have not looked like crazy dominant. The Eagles were not as good this year as they were last year. I think that's fair.
Yeah. Do you guys play them this year? That would be really cool if you did.
Don't know. Let me do Detroit.
I'm pulling it up right now. It doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think those are the top three NFC teams. You got 49ers, Eagles, and Lions are very, very good. You got to feel good about that team. Just the fact that they were banged up last week, top wide receivers out. I forget who else was out, but you would know. And they just
Gibbs was out.
Yeah, they just handled the 49ers the whole way. Sam Laporta looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Campbell, I think, is looking good from last I saw.
And
Brian
he's going to be
Branch
getting
out.
more touches. The coaching staff said, like, we're not playing him enough. So, like, he's playing so good that the coaching staff's like, we got to use him more. So, no, I mean, everything's good in Detroit right now, honestly.
Yeah. Sentence that's never been said before, but here we are. Yeah, I'm happy for you, kind of. I think you're a shitty friend, but I'm happy that you get to experience a good football team before.
Let me just have it this year because it's probably not going to be good next year. Next we have Green Bay Packers. I think they can't be in suicide watch because their future situation is a fuck. They have their draft picks. They don't have some outrageous contracts right now. Like they haven't paid Jordan Love some ridiculous amount of money.
They haven't. That's a good point. Yeah,
but they're awful. In my opinion, I think the Packers are bad. And I think Jordan Love is bad.
They are. It's been made clear recently that they are not a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
Christian Watson tricked me personally. Mm-hmm. Jordan Love tricked me personally.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Dillon might suck.
Yes.
I might be completely out on him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I originally had them in suicide watch, but the fact that they haven't paid Jordan Love is very nice. You can throw away this year. Mm-hmm. And then just regroup next year, retool. You have some nice pieces here and there, but generally speaking, bad football team. Yeah.
So let's look at the Jordan Love contract just for a quick second here.
Is that how you say it? It's Parak?
I do Spotrac. Spotrac. Yeah.
I always put the R before the T.
Yeah. So yeah, look, they owe money in 2024, but we're talking about like $5 million. I mean, the cap hit it, they cut him. Like, it's nothing so bad that if they didn't want to get rid of him, they couldn't, you know?
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing. They might just keep him and draft the next guy or keep him in tank or something, you know? It's not like they're committed to him long-term for the future. So
I would do. Plenty of good quarterbacks coming out this year, too. So,
Yep. So, I think my gut reaction for this next team, the Houston Texans, would be to place them in scrappy Hog Riders because I just love everything coming out of that team right now. But how do you feel? Are they terrible to you?
No, not at all. I would actually argue playoff or bust for the Houston Texans. That's where I'm at with this team. Not only because they've been playing well, but that division is really bad. And, you know, up for grabs. I mean, I guess the Jags have kind of figured it out, but like you said, the AFC is kind of beating itself down right now, and you haven't seen as much as you thought you would from these other teams that were supposed to be like world enders. Maybe it's because they're all beating each other up, but CJ Stroud looks really good. Is Tank Dell on this? Tank Dell, right?
Yep, Tank Dell and Nico Collins, John Mechie, you know, so many guys.
Devin Singletary, Bills legend. Yeah, there's a lot to like about the Texans, and they also have a great coach. If I'm the Texans, I'm looking at the playoffs. I guess it wouldn't be a bust if they didn't. So maybe Scrappy Hog Riders is the correct.
Maybe they're like top of Scrappy Hog Riders.
Yeah, they're the best Scrappy Hog Rider.
Maybe at the very end here, we'll rearrange some teams to put them at like the top or the bottom of their tiers.
Yeah.
So I think like top of Scrappy Hog Riders makes sense because you're right. Like if they miss the playoffs, I don't think they're going to be bummed out if they feel like they really have something here in Stroud.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Colts are another interesting one where when Anthony Richardson's healthy, I think they are right there with Houston. But he's only healthy half the time. So I have to put them in like the middle of Scrappy Hog Riders. Does that sound right to you?
It sure does. Zach Moss has just been tearing it up, which is so silly to me because he was awful in Buffalo. And I really don't think it was like, oh, they misused him. Like, I think he just is behind like a great O-line and a competent man. They got him for like a 6th round pick, maybe less. I don't remember, but I'm happy for him.
It's weird. The Zach Moss situation is so odd to me because I've never been more confident that a guy was bad at football in my life than Zach Moss. And now he has 200 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns last week. He's putting up McCaffrey numbers.
Yeah, it's silly, which also kind of makes like the Jonathan Taylor signing is also now very interesting because of Zach Moss. I think like there's 2 ways to look at it, and I'd love to hear your opinion. Like, is it dumb to sign Jonathan Taylor to a 3-year, $42 million deal when you have Zach Moss running rampant on teams for 200 yards. Yeah, that does look bad.
I think
But,
so.
huh?
I think it looks silly. Yeah,
It does. But the other side of the coin is like, players are real people, and getting this deal done with Jonathan Taylor with all the hubbubaloo that came with it looks better for the Colts organization, and like maybe will attract talent down the road. 3 years isn't the worst thing. Like, it could have been way worse, but
yeah.
you don't pay your running backs. But
I think it's almost like I think they kind of have something interesting going on there where they're giving him a lot of money on a relatively short deal. I think this is kind of the way running backs should position themselves contract wise. Like, stop asking for these long. I think if you get to 4 years, if you're asking for 4 years as a running back, like, the team's just not going to want to sign up for that. So here's my whole stance on the matter is that I root for every running back to get paid. I think that having a good running back and a good running game is actually very important to winning football. I think it's crazy that people have somehow overlooked that. And I am not excited if Jahmyr Gibbs becomes the running back he can be for the Lions to pay him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, so
that's
it's
a long
just
ways away, though.
Yes, it is. But good for Jonathan Taylor. I'm always rooting for. I mean, the running back position. They're such a fun part of football. It's so weird that they become so devalued. So good for him. It'll be interesting to see. I think Zach Moss is going to be relevant for a couple more weeks. I don't think Jonathan Taylor just comes in next week and takes 100% of the touches. And why would you bother? Because you want to keep your asset that you're paying for next 3 years relatively healthy. So that is that. Next, we have the Jaguars. If I'm being honest, I thought the Jaguars were going to be one of the best 5 or 6 teams in the NFL this year. And I feel really dumb because of that.
Well, they might be. They just beat the Bills.
Yeah, they just beat the Bills. I don't know what to make of that. I think that's a burn the tape type of game for the Bills. Who cares about that game? Are you really going to beat yourself up for whatever the fuck happened in that game with all the injuries that happened?
Do you have an unbiased opinion on the reffing in that game?
Okay, so my thing is I was running my marathon and listening to that game. So it was hard for me.
Cool.
It was cool. I know it's cool. There's always a London game every week when I run my marathon. So like last year I watched, I think it was Giants Packers, or I listened to Giants Packers. So it was hard for me to have a say, but I finished my marathon and I was watching at the very end what was going on with like Gabe Davis, and he was just like refusing not to score at the end. I thought that was so funny. I didn't have a really good say. Can you give me your thought on what happened in the officiating in the game?
I mean, I felt like they had their fingerprints all over it. Seemed like it was more on the Bills. There were definitely some calls that they did commit penalties on, but it really felt like the refs wanted. Like, it was one of those games where it's like, okay, like the ref wants to be the center of attention for this game, and he's going to call every single thing he can. There were multiple calls where they didn't even show the replay, which to me means it didn't happen.
Yeah.
There's a couple huge penalties against like Ed Oliver and Jordan. Like Ed Oliver had a hands to the face penalty when he was getting held, and they called it on him. Like, that shit drives me up a wall as my players are, tearing their fucking ACL. So I was fired up about it. But I will.
Someone's gonna tell these refs that there's no one coming to the game dressed in their uniform or their jersey. You know what I'm saying? No one's here for you, bro. Just officiate the game, blend in at best, and fuck off.
Boys play.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you know what? That's the NFL. The officiating's awful. It just is. As great as the product is on the field, the officiating's awful. So Jaguars, where do we put this team?
I biasly had them in teams that are absolutely thinking of the Super Bowl. Biasly. So I'll default to you.
I almost feel like this team needs to be playoff or bust. And here's my reasoning for playoff or bust is that they're supposed to win this division. And now you got this Indianapolis team, that beat the Baltimore Ravens. They look really scrappy. You got Houston looking really, this team needs to win this division or else people are going to start asking questions. I think they should be in playoff or bust just because I think they started off too slow to be teams that are thinking about the Super Bowl, in my opinion. But at the same time, they need to make the playoffs. So I think we'll put them here for now, and we'll see. A couple weeks from now when we do this again, they could be a team on the move for sure. Kansas City. I'm gonna lay out here because they're an AFC team. How do you feel about Kansas City this year?
I think they are the same as they always are, where it's like, what's wrong with this team? What's wrong with this team? And then they go to the AFC Championship. I think they should be in the second tier with the Bills, Cowboys, Lions.
I agree.
I think that they are not in that top tier because they genuinely have no quality receivers. No receivers over a 75 overall. It's a very, very clear hole in their roster. So that's my issue with them. I'm sure they'll figure it out, but
and of course they will figure it out because it's the fucking Chiefs, but it also doesn't feel right to just put them here in the top of the list because they haven't really looked like that, in my opinion. They haven't looked outstanding. I mean, Kelsey is banged up like every other game at this point, and I'm not trying to shit talk Kelsey. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, an absolute fucking man, but their whole offense is predicated on a fucking 80-year-old tight end. It's crazy that it worked last year. And I don't think it's going to end up working out this year. Eventually, Father Time has to catch up.
He's been banged up, man. He's starting to get banged up. It sucks to see, but he's 34. He's taking a lot of hits. Had an incredible career.
Yep.
This team, bringing it back to the Broncos, this team might go for Jerry Jeudy. That would make a lot of sense, and that would make me shit my pants if they did. But keep an eye out for that.
Oof. Scary to actually think about. All right, next we have the Bolts, the LA Chargers. I think if I was to compliment this team, I could put them in playoff or bust, but I feel like they're also on a bad week. They have the most variance. Do you agree with me in what they look like week to week? They either look like a terrible football team or they're playoff or bust. Does that mean they're just inevitably in scrappy hog riders? Do we just put them in the middle?
I got no respect for this team. I originally had them in playoff or bust because, if they don't go to the playoffs, I think Staley gets the axe.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no respect for this team. I'm very happy to put the Chargers in scrappy hog riders. I look at the playoff picture already. I love it, Mikey.
Why not? So right now, they're on the bubble.
They're 2-2, and
Wait, how does that make sense? They haven't. Are they playing tonight, or they? Oh, they had a bye.
They had a bye. That
That
elusive Tuesday night game.
Let's put them in playoff or bust. And here's going to be my logic. I think you made a good point about the coach. I think you also make a good point, in saying that there's probably some pressure on their fucking QB to eventually show out. And also, we just have less data on them, because they had that bye.
Yes.
I think if we maybe saw them this week and they played really great, or they played really bad, we'd have a better feeling. So let's leave them here. And later on this year, we'll have our chance to drop them down to Suicide Watch. LA Ram, I think this is an easy hog rider to me. Well, how do you feel about the LA Rams?
They are the poster child for a scrappy hog rider. They'll beat anyone. They'll lose to anyone. Matthew Stafford just slinging it everywhere. Puka all-time name.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp back. I like this team. This team could make the playoffs, but scrappy hog riders where they belong.
Because they were playing with the Eagles. The Eagles covered against them last week, but they were playing with the Eagles for most of that game.
Eagles sneaky play down to their competition, it seems like.
Maybe that's the difference from last year. Last year, I don't know if you remember, their whole thing last year is that they would blow out teams in the first half and then kind of just coast in the second half. Feels like this year the Eagles are just kind of, hanging out. And I don't think that's good for them personally.
It's just the tush push. That's all. That's their one trick.
Yeah.
Very good trick. But
you know what? We have them in a couple more teams, and maybe we can sound off on tush push then. Next, we have the Vegas Raiders. My first inclination is terrible football team. I cannot. I like Max Crosby, and I think Devontae Adams is a really great player who's going to not be on this roster sooner than later, probably. I don't know what to do with this team other than terrible football. I have a hard time even putting them scrappy. Hog riders.
No, they're not scrappy. They're bad. That's where they belong. Josh Jacobs, the easiest fantasy football bust I've ever seen. Saw that a mile away. He's getting, I don't even know how many yards a touch, but it's not a lot.
Let me look it up.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs.
He's getting 2.9 yards a touch. Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah, that's not
And
great.
there's like a very clear correlation between the leading touch running back going into the next year having a huge decline. They just
Yep.
get banged up.
Yep.
82 touches for 235 yards, 2.9, 2 touchdowns. And they're trying to run the offense through him. He's just not good. And neither is his team, and neither is the coach, and neither is the defense.
Derrick Henry is the only guy who's been able to defy that whole like most touches curse. Because you're so right about that. These guys, they're tired for like a year afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. So next we have Miami. I think my first thought is just plop them and absolutely thinking about the Super Bowl because they are definitely still competing with you. If they had an easier division, I think you could even put them as like a fringe. But I think the Bills and Dolphins, neither of them can be in this top tier because they're both so competitive. So how do you feel about that?
Who have the Dolphins beaten? They beat the Giants, the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Chargers by 2 points.
Wow. Miami Dill.
They're not
mute the
that
podcast.
Good.
They might not be that good.
No, they're not. They are like what the Ravens are when Lamar Jackson won the MVP, where they are just so fast that they can outrun these bad teams. They have such good scheme that they can scheme the guys wide open and they run down the field super fast, and it's electric to watch. It is like the perfect Madden team.
Yeah.
But against decent offenses, they've let up 34 points and 48 points.
Was that good?
It's bad, Mike.
Oh, it's bad. Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought that might be good, but it's bad apparently.
No. Letting up
okay.
30 points is not recommended. I think they're playoff or bust.
I think so too. There was a second there where they're like, "Oh my God, can anyone stop them?" And then I showed up to Buffalo and someone stopped them. So
Mikey stopped them. Shout out Mikey.
Something to think about, folks. Next we have Minnesota Vikings. Do they go in a Gopher tier?
The Vikings, they're either suicide watch. We could put them in the Gopher tier.
Yeah, I think they just kind of belong there. It just sucks because I can't put them here. They have to be like on top of the Gopher.
We drew the Gopher too fast. Mistakes happen.
All right, I'm going to redraw the Gopher. I want to redraw the Gopher while you sound off. What are your thoughts on Minnesota?
The Vikings are in a sell state, similar to the Broncos coming up. I was talking about them earlier, taking the Bears against them this week. They just lose games, and it is crazy to me, which is why I originally had them in suicide watch, but Minnesota Gopher football is also very fitting.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins playing great ball.
Yep.
There was a lot of clips going around this week of TJ Hockenson just dropping like 4 catches.
That guy was a bum.
Yeah,
was a bum. I never liked him.
You were right.
I never liked him or Swift, and Swift looks really good right now, and Hockenson looks really bad. So it's 50-50,
It's okay. Swift will get hurt. And then KJ Osborne, like a ball hitting him in the head. Like Kirk Cousins is really good, but the rest of the team just looks not great.
Yeah, I mean, defense, horrid. Run game, not great. Receivers outside of Justin Jefferson are not super fantastic. I'm trying to remember. Did Van Jefferson get traded to this team? No, he got traded to the Falcons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll definitely use him in Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Dude, here's the thing though. They probably will. Like he'll probably be getting more receptions than like London and Pitts combined. Like just knowing how they just how they are in Atlanta.
Disgusting. Yeah.
All right. So no, I mean I got a lot of respect for Kirk. I feel like he's Matt Stafford with bad luck, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that take. I like that take a lot. So he's a Hall of Famer.
No. You have to have some luck to get into the Hall of Fame. So next we have the New England Patriots, and Matt Stafford is a Hall of Famer. We'll have that conversation later if you want. Patriots. Sneaky suicide watch?
There's a case for suicide watch, and the case is that
let's put them in there. Fuck them.
Fuck them. Boston doesn't know misery until right now. They're coming to terms with Mac Jones being terrible.
Yep.
Along with Zappy being terrible.
Yep.
Bill Belichick could be on the way out the door. They're seeing it's the fall of the Roman Empire right now in Boston, and they're starting to realize that it's happening. It's been a slow decline starting from Tom Brady throwing a pick six in the playoffs to lose the Titans, to now Mac Jones putting up a goose egg after putting up 3 the week before. The worst 2 losses in Bill Belichick's career were this previous week and then the week before that.
Is that good?
No, it's bad. It is also bad, Mikey. So I think Suicide Watch is fine for them.
I didn't think there would be a second Suicide Watch team, but like,
there's a couple.
Because here's the thing: when you're trying to rebuild, you need something to like start with. And I just don't think this team has anything going forward. Like, I think this team, when it's eventually good again, will literally have no one on this current roster on their team. Them, like,
yeah, Christian Barrymore, I think, is decent as a D tackle, but he's like a top 20 D tackle in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like but yeah, it's a bad. Oh, they have Christian Gonzalez. Shout out Christian.
Oh yeah, no, I fully agree. He was playing really awesome until he got hurt.
So there you go. There's 2 people that might be on the roster in 5 years.
I'm rooting for them. Next we got the New Orleans Saints. Jack would probably put them in Super Bowl championship ready team. I'm not ready to do it. Where would you put this team? I don't think they're Suicide Watch.
I think
are they scrappy hogs? Are they terrible?
I think they.
Let me look at their record
terrible
right
to
now.
watch. Derek Carr looks awful. They have such a good defense. It's just like tough. They're a tough one to place.
They're 3-2 right now.
Suicidal. So you can't put them in. You can't put them in Suicide Watch. You probably have to put them in Scrappy just because that defense is so good.
Yeah, I'm looking at these. They're a weird team. So, like, their wins against the Patriots, which is not that impressive. Their wins over Carolina, not that impressive. Tennessee, I have no idea what to do with, but they barely beat Tennessee. But then they lose to, like, a bad team. But you know what? This loss against Green Bay, they had their quarterback hurt for. I kind of respect Tampa Bay. I think this team's scrappy. You've talked me into scrappy.
They're the last scrappy team. They are.
I agree.
Barely scrappy.
All right, coming around the Suicide Watch. Or no. I meant to say going around the New York Giants. But I just said Suicide Watch. I actually don't know if they're Suicide Watch.
Oh, they are so Suicide Watch.
All right, you give your pitch for Suicide Watch, and I'll give my pitch for terrible football.
I brought up earlier, what team would you least want to take over? And you said Broncos, and I agreed wholeheartedly. Giants are number 2. Giants have to pay Saquon, who is, how old is Saquon? He's like 26, 27.
I'll look it.
He's getting up there, which is crazy to say he's a 26, 27-year-old. 60. Charles Barkley. Okay, way to go, Mikey. They just paid Daniel Jones $40 million for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's their guy, and he looks awful. The O-line, once again, the worst ever. And I think these guys are Suicide Watch because if you talk to the Giants early in the year, they're like, yeah, man, we're going to the playoffs. We just beat the Vikings last year. We're going. And it's over.
Okay, I'm gonna say something. They have to be the best Suicide Watch team, though. I don't know.
If that's how you feel, I'll allow it. But I will strongly argue Suicide Watch.
All right,
we gotta talk to Dosh. Yeah.
So here's my opinion on the Giants. I think that the Daniel Jones contract, it's a lot of money, but it's relatively a short deal. Like, let's look at Spotrac for Daniel Jones here. Like, they have a potential out in 2025. What if this year they draft their quarterback of the future? 2024, they let Daniel Jones sort of, mentor him, do whatever. It's almost going to be like the Kurt Warner to Eli Manning. Oh, wait, is that Kurt Warner? There is someone. They're going to hand the reins off to this next quarterback halfway through next year, and they're going to cut him, and they're just going to eat this money, I think. Dead cap is only $22 million, which, like, is not terrible.
Yeah.
I think this is the hope for the Giants, is that this contract, everyone shit on it, and it doesn't look very good right now. But I think there's a chance that they're going to be able to move on from Jones quicker than people realize. So let's put them in Suicide Watch because of how people thought they were going to be going into this year. And we'll see how people feel later on this year. We have the Jets.
Sounds good. Jets, I think the Jets are scrappy.
I think the Jets are scrappy too.
They got a great defense.
Yep. They're like towards the top of scrappy here, in my opinion. And maybe like mid-tier scrappy because their offense is so odd. But yeah, I mean, you know, when Wilson has a good game, they're gonna beat the shit out of teams. And when Wilson has a bad game, they still might beat teams, you know?
Yeah. Their defense is just that good.
Yeah.
I think they have an outside chance to make the playoffs, which is all you can ask for as a hog rider.
Oh my god. Jets make the playoffs, I literally might go to that game just to be there.
Yeah, that'd be electric. Zach Wilson in the playoffs, baby.
I like the person Zach Wilson. Like I like the guy Zach Wilson. I think he's somewhat likable.
He's come around. He's had like a full arc.
Yep.
Where he like was hated. He said like some bullshit like about it wasn't my fault we're losing.
Yep.
He's figured it out. Now he's taking all the blame.
I think he's really had like quite the journey here in the NFL. So I'm rooting for the guy. Next we have the Philadelphia Eagles. So before we place them anywhere, how do you feel about the tush push? I don't know if I have a hard take on it yet. Like I just feel so conflicted about it because like no one else seems to do the tush push that well. So I kind of want to give Philadelphia some props for it. But at the same time, it's so fucking stupid. Like if they're, I don't know. So how do you feel about it?
It is stupid, but also like it's football, and if like that's a play that works for them and it doesn't work for others because Jalen Hurts squats 650 pounds and they have an excellent O-line. Like if you want to do that, you should draft guys like that. Everyone knew that Jalen Hurts was that big, and they didn't draft him. So I think like the fact they're trying to ban it because it's too unstoppable is very lame. And I also like am not happy that they have it because it's kind of an unstoppable play from 2 yards. Like they're gonna get it, which sucks. But like other teams should try to do it. The Bears did it. No one else could.
I want to see them get stopped on the tush push, like in the playoffs.
Yes, me too.
In the Super Bowl. Like I want it to be dramatic when it happens, but
I think it will be.
So you think they're an absolute thing about Super Bowl team, I'm imagining, right?
Yep, you too.
Yeah, that's where I feel about them as well. So we're gonna plop them right in there. Steelers. Are we gonna put the whole AFC North in playoff or bust? Here's the thing. I think they're like pretty much as good as all these teams.
Yeah.
But also you can't have the whole division in playoff or bust. I don't know. How do you feel?
Why can't we have the whole division in there?
Man, you're so right.
I don't think,
right.
I think I would rather have them in Scrappy Hog Riders, but the fact that we have all the AFC North there is just like that's what we need to do.
For the memes. Yeah, I mean, great defense, a lot like the Jets. Great defense. If their quarterback plays good, they're gonna win. If their quarterback plays bad, they still might win. Probably don't have as good as weapons, but they have a way better coach. I feel like it's a very similar bias to the Jets.
Yeah, George Pickens. I was on some Steelers Twitter lately, and they have come to the conclusion, and I agree that George Pickens is kind of similar where like DK Metcalf, like he's kind of average, but he does one thing better than everyone else. Like he runs really fast and he's big. George Pickens' thing that he's way better than everyone else at is that he's just more grown. He's just got that dog.
Yep.
And I would have to agree with Steelers Twitter. He's just like he makes crazy plays when you need him to. And he will be arrested one day, but until then, dude's a dog.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just tough because, like, I don't know. It feels like their running back situation with Najee is so sad because it's like they drafted a first round running back, but they didn't get a first round running back. You know?
Yeah,
that
Najee Harris sucks. He sucks. I've been saying it.
Yeah, Najee Harris, real bad. Seattle's an interesting one because they make the playoffs last year.
They did. They lost to the 49ers.
So they made the playoffs last year. I think they got to be playoff or bust because, like, I don't know. Or are they scrappy? I don't know.
Think they're playoff or bust. They got to find. I have a really hard time telling myself that because I go, Geno Smith, what? But they got a good coach. They got good weapons. They got a good running game, solid defensive pieces. Yeah, they're like lower end playoff or bust. I would put them there.
So maybe worst playoff or bust team.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right. Only got 4 teams left here. Next, we have San Francisco. I'm gonna go ahead and place this team Super Bowl championship ready team, and I'm assuming you're gonna agree with that. And there's not gonna be much of an argument, right?
No, they're just unbelievable. Maybe one of the best rosters ever assembled.
Brock Purdy was maybe the one weakness you could argue on this team going into the season, and he is now like a top 4 or 5 MVP odds. I wouldn't vote for him MVP in my opinion, even though I respect the guy and I like him, and good for him. But San Fran, they're good. They I don't know what to say. They're good.
What if I told you Brock Purdy had a 72% completion percentage, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions?
Is that this season right now?
Yeah. He's
Oh my
crushing.
God.
I don't know how many yards that is per game. It's not as much as you would like out of your MVP, but 1,271 divided by 5. He's throwing for 260 a game.
I mean, 260 is not nothing. It's really not. It's
No. Very impressive. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, they're that's the reason why. Like, here's the thing: the only hope I have for the Lions somehow making it to the Super Bowl is that San Fran is cursed and Brock Purdy's gonna get hurt again, and Trey Lance is gonna be in the stands pointing and laughing.
Yeah.
So that's my only hope. But that's the only thing that can stop this team is like multiple injuries to the quarterback. But until then, they're the best team in the NFL, and I don't think it's particularly close. All right, 3 teams. Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Dude.
They are giving me Scrappy Hog Rider. How do you feel about that? Is that my default? I don't know.
Could argue. I mean, that's where a lot of the teams sit.
Yep.
I think you could argue that team is entering playoff or bust mode with the way they've been playing. How Baker has looked. He looks like the old Baker, and I'm honestly very happy to see that. They're 3-1. Yeah. They got their bye, but there's not a lot to not like about that. Like, this team won the Super Bowl 3 years ago.
3, I think I want to say.
Yeah, like they still have pieces from that roster. Devin White's there. Antoine Winfield Jr.'s there. The line isn't great. So if they are Scrappy Hog Riders, they're right in the top. If they're playoff or bust, they're right at the bottom.
I think in hindsight, like who would you say? Like right now, Houston and the Buccaneers are playing each other and a neutral field, right? We're going to assume a neutral field. Like what do you set the line as?
Bucks -1, Bucks -2.
Okay, so the Bucks are potentially the best Scrappy Hog Rider, or are they the worst? Because we already said Seattle's the worst playoff team. Are you agree that they're probably worse than Seattle, better than Houston?
Yeah. And now when you phrase it like that, like Seahawks, Bucks, neutral field, I feel like the line's bigger than it would be Texans, Bucks. Like, I think Seahawks are favored by like 4.
Yeah. So does that lean them towards best Scrappy then?
I would say so.
Okay. And then, you know what? That makes sense. That's what the NFL really feels like. It's like a bell curve where there's not that many Minnesota Gopher football teams. And there's only one not. Super Bowl championship ready team. Tennessee Titans. I think this team could be sneaky suicide watch.
Yeah, I think they should be. I think that, I'm very close to a Titans fan.
Yep.
And Titans Kingdom really convinced themselves that they just reloaded. That they just did a small internal rebuild, pieced together that O-line, brought in DeAndre Hopkins to fix every issue.
Yep.
And then they just have looked bad. Everyone's looked bad.
I think the Tannehill experiment has to end.
It was a good experiment for a while, but it's over.
Yeah,
it's over. I'll die on the hill that Ryan Tannehill was far and away above average for a stretch there when Arthur Smith was the quarterback, but this year he's got 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's not what you like to see. Derrick Henry also looks old. I have a trade proposition for you.
Yep.
I don't know what you think. So it's straight up. I have Jonathan Taylor. I have Jahmyr Gibbs. I have Saquon Barkley. I have Derrick Henry.
Okay.
I'm getting offered Derrick Henry for Puka Nacua straight up.
Smash. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Are you worried about Cooper Kupp or are you worried about Derrick Henry figuring it out?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Dude, okay, think about it this way. What did the Rams just tell you today? The Rams just traded away Van Jefferson. The Rams like what they have on the field right now. And look, last week, they both did well on the field. Like, the NFL interns were, like, cracking jokes because Cooper Kupp had a really great first drive. Look at Puka Nuka's fucking game. His game was great. I think he had, like, 70 yards, 7 catches, and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming this is, like, a redraft league. This is like a one-off league.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's smash accept, in my opinion.
I think if it was a dynasty, it's even easier.
I was gonna say exactly. I think that's a smash accept. I think bye Derrick Henry. I mean, because your running back situation is so good because Jonathan Taylor is going to get better as the year goes on. Saquon Barkley will get better as the year goes on. Jahmyr Gibbs will get better as the year goes on. I'm very confident in the fact that those players will finish better than they look right now. And Puka Nacua, like, I'm assuming your wide receivers can't be that good.
Well, they're okay. I have Brandon Ayuk and Calvin Ridley. And Tyler Lockett.
Again, like, I think Puka would be a nice addition to that room. I think he fits in right next to those guys, and I think you're going to have to play the matchup game moving forward. But no, I smash accept that. Do it right now.
Yeah, I am. You just sent it.
Let's go.
The question is, no, I'm just going to fucking do it. Who cares? It's not even real.
Yeah. It's fantasy football, you know?
Yep, it's done.
Beautiful. We've had good luck. We've had good luck on in-show decisions. Last week, you convinced me about the Kansas City Chiefs, and they covered. So I think in-show nonsense is gonna go well going forward.
It's good for the team. Okay,
good for the team. Last team here as we wrap up, we have the Washington Commandos. I'm leaning towards terrible team. I don't think this team's suicide watch because they have some young pieces. I think it's pretty obvious that their head coach sucks and they're eventually going to be able to fire him. But so I don't think this team's suicide watch, but I don't know. Like, do you think they're a hog rider?
They are very spicy.
Let's look at this team. Let's ponder this team really quick. Washington football team. So let's look at their game so far. So they got the shit beat out of them by the Bears, which might be tainting my memory. But then they also go to overtime with the Eagles. They get the shit beat out of them by the Bills. But then they barely beat the Broncos. Like, look at some of these wins, bro. Like, dude, their losses are horrible. Look at these losses. These are all horrible losses. Yeah, I think that I'm pretty confident that this team is terrible.
Okay. I'm down. Put them in there. Best horrible team, though. Best horrible team.
All right. Right before we wrap up here, do we like the teams that are at the top of the tiers and the bottom of the tier? Like, who do you think is the worst team thinking about a Super Bowl? Do you think it's Dolphins? Ooh.
Yeah. I genuinely, maybe the Cowboys.
Maybe the Cowboys. I actually think I agree with that too, because I actually trust Goff more than I trust Dak at this point. And I think the Bills are the best team in this tier. Okay, best team in AFC or in the AFC North division plus playoff or bust.
That's kind of a gross group of teams right there that I don't love.
Because these four teams seem so even.
Yeah,
the AFC North teams. I think we're right with the Ravens being at the top of the list. I honestly think this don't touch this one.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
All right. Best scrappy hog rider here.
I think it's the Rams. I think it's the Rams. Matt Stafford, Matty Ice.
Yep. And then I think the Saints are appropriately the worst scrappy hog rider. I don't know. Atlanta could be there too, though. And even like fucking Arizona. I don't know. Do we have to put Arizona here? I don't know what to do.
I think they belong. I think if you're gonna move any team.
Oh, I was just moving the order within like who's the worst scrappy?
I think those three are very close to one another. I think I would I think that's the order that I would be most comfortable playing them in. Saints the best, Cardinals middle, Falcons the worst.
Cool. All right. The worst terrible football or the best terrible football team. I think you gotta go Bears.
No,
right?
Commanders. Bears or Commanders.
Yeah, I want to put the Bears there just because you never know with Justin Fields. He's a freak. And the worst team is probably the Raiders because they don't even have a young team, really.
Yeah.
Suicide Watch, I think the top of the list still has to remain the Broncos. And I think the Titans probably at the bottom.
The bottom being they're the least suicidal.
Oh, that's a good point. This one's confusing. All right. So the most willing to kill yourself is Broncos, right? You're very down to kill yourself if you're a Broncos fan. And then who's the best Suicide Watch team?
I think the Titans. I think the Titans have things that you feel okay about.
Yeah. And then Minnesota's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Shout out Minnesota Gophers. The parlay, Mikey, was a 4-team parlay. It was Texas to beat Oklahoma. They lost. Minnesota to beat Michigan. They lost by 50, which is bad. And then the Titans to win against someone that they lost, and then the Bills. So we went over 4, which is very impressive. But that's a great list we got right there.
I'm proud of this list. I don't think this is one we'll feel bad about a couple weeks from now, a couple months from now, really. Cheers. Bet the house on all of our plays. Spread this tier list around. Tell anyone who disagrees with it to kick rocks. And we'll see everyone next week, and we'll be back to the normal format.
Peace.